Hello, I'm Staff Sergeant Tyler Kennemer, and I'm a percussionist with the United States Air Force Academy Band. Today I'd like to share with you a few tips on how to improve your buzz roll. For a percussionist, the buzz roll is our long tone, so we want that to sound as smooth as possible and have as few bumps in the sound as possible. So I'll be sharing with you a few elements that you could work on to help you achieve this goal. First, let's discuss the motion. Unlike most playing where we typically play from the wrist, I'm going to suggest that you actually play with more of an arm-oriented stroke to keep the muscles in your wrist from tiring out too quickly. So we're actually going to hinge from the elbow joint here, keep our wrist relatively straight, and then just apply that tension that you need for the buzz in your fulcrum. So if you're not familiar with this motion, or maybe you're starting to play a buzz roll for the first time, may I suggest this next exercise? So what I want you to do is play alternating strokes using this motion, but over tension on the fulcrum, so that you're actually digging into the snare drum head a little too much and making what is admittedly a bad sound. And then release some tension in the fulcrum step by step as you're playing until you can find something that's a little more comfortable for you and that also sounds pretty good on the snare drum. Let's hear what that sounds like. So after you're more comfortable with that motion, the next step is going to be to choose how many strokes you're actually putting in with each hand as you alternate. The reason for this is because if you're typically playing 3 strokes with one hand, but 4 or 5 with your other hand, you're going to have that unevenness in your sound, and you're going to ruin the illusion of that just clear wall of sound that we're looking for in a buzz roll. So what I typically like to do, 3 or 4 is common. I typically choose 3. It's got a little bit more of an airy sound and just sounds good to me. So you can start with just one hand, starting slow, making sure you're only getting 3 strokes, and then speed it up, and then play those consecutively back to back so that you know you're getting a consistent buzz every time. Once you're good with that, you can then start playing consecutively with one hand and then interspersing your other hand between that so that you could create that clear buzz roll sound. And you could do that off of both hands. Let's see what that sounds like. So after working on this exercise a little bit, you should have a more consistent sounding buzz roll, at least at one dynamic level. The question is, how do you actually change the volume and still keep this consistency? So in most playing, again, when you're playing from the wrist, you're typically just going to change your stick height. But the problem with this when trying to go from mezzo forte to, say, fortissimo playing a buzz roll is that you'll probably end up with too much accent on the front of your sound, only changing your stick height. And that'll create those bumps in the road that we don't want to hear when we're playing a buzz roll. So my suggestion is actually to let density be your guide, or how fast you're playing hand to hand, and let that guide your volume. So going from mezzo forte to fortissimo, you're actually just going to keep relatively the same stick height, but just play hand to hand faster than you were. Likewise, when you're trying to get softer, you're actually just going to slow that down by a lot. But when you get to those really extreme soft dynamic levels, you're going to notice that 3 strokes just isn't going to cut it anymore, and you're just going to have to feel out how many strokes that you need at that point because you're going so slow. So let's see what that sounds like. And there you have it. These exercises will require probably a lot of experimentation on your part, but I hope some of these tips can help you in finding a smoother buzz roll sound for yourself. Happy practicing!